Hello and a warm welcome back to the Coleraine FC podcast. We had our little break over Christmas and New Year, which was appreciated by everybody. So, welcome back. We've lots to talk about, myself and Jonathan. But before we start, thank you as ever to our good friends at Northern Regional College at the Coleraine campus, where we record the video of the podcast. And don't forget that it's still available by audio if anybody wants to listen to it when you're out walking the dogs. Not that I do, but I listen to other podcasts. I don't listen to this one. But without further ado, Jonathan, I mentioned you there at the start. It's our first sort of get-together since before Christmas. At that time, we weren't really sure how Christmas, New Year was going to work. It was always going to be busy. Looking back in hindsight, wasn't just the happiest of Christmases and New Year in terms of a playing point of view for Coleraine, was it?
No, it was... I suppose if you take the games in isolation, the Torn one started well, obviously scored, and then Dylan Boyle's probably a red card, which was a red, changed the game.
You think?
Yeah, it definitely was a red, yeah. Still really don't know what their penalty was for, but anyway, look, they scored the penalty, and then their winner just sort of summed up the night when a cross comes, loops over, and banned in the back of the net with basically the last kick of the game. Then Ballymena on Boxing Day, beaten by a better team, hungrier team. Thought the team that looked more likely to score goals. That was really disappointing, especially with the crowd we took down. Linfield again, good result. Thought we bullied them really. Got our goals and ran out worthy winners. I think Patch's goal at the end was a cracker if I remember right, the one curled into the bottom corner. And then Larne. Yeah, another big crowd up at Inver Park, and again I thought we started reasonably well enough, and then they sort of took over, and we were probably lucky to win level at half time, and then Andy Ryan comes on unfortunately and bags a couple of goals. So yeah, I know Rory said after the Larne game that the festive period was not sore, but it wasn't great to be honest, and I can't really argue with that.
I've forgotten all about the Glentoran game in the midst of all that. You just reminded me. The Ballymena one, I think that was particularly disappointing from a supporter's point of view, really. You mentioned it was Boxing Day. Massive game. Oran's first game in charge, first derby in charge as Ballymena United manager. There was a lot of hype around the game, and rightly so. It was a big game to look forward to, and I think that's the disappointing thing, that we were all so looking forward to the game, and then on the day itself there was so little to get enthused by, and just the manner of the loss and the defeat. And it's bad enough losing a game like that anytime, but to your closest rivals, and let's face it, that was their cup final, wasn't it? You know what I mean? So, what lessons do you think that Ruaidhri and the players could take from a game like that, looking further down the line?
Well, I would answer that in two parts. I think the first part is Ballymena totally deserved it. Thought they were hungrier. They won every first and second ball. Their two goals were well taken. Obviously, Darragh O'Connor runs in behind and he takes both of them really, really well. But I think what he'll have learned probably from those three defeats has been proven with our signings in January. I think we need to find ways of winning games differently. And I've always said it, I think we've got a really talented group of players, but we probably needed that little polish of people who've been there and done it, and leadership as well. And you take out really London and Levi and maybe Donny, I suppose. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but I didn't feel there had been that many leaders, if that makes sense. Cody's probably another one, but obviously Cody's unfortunately injured. So Mark and Mark come in as two leaders, and I suppose we'll chat about the signings later. And James Akatunde's obviously played. He's 29, so he's experienced. So, yeah, look, I think Rory would have probably learned that we needed probably a bit more leadership on the pitch in those games, and how to win differently. And the pitch at Ballymena was a leveler, but they were able to play on it and win. And sometimes we need to win games differently.
Yeah, it's always strange as a football fan, like whenever you say something like Ballymena wanted it more.
Yeah.
Because as fans, and I'm sure, Rory and his coaching team would have sent those players out, and the players would have known the magnitude of the game, the importance of the game. And it's always really difficult to understand as a fan or even as a reporter that, you say Ballymena wanted it more, and you're like, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
I would say one that more isn't a case of, I'm definitely not saying our players didn't try, because they did try and they put in all the effort they try and get something out of the game, but it just was not. It just seemed Ballymena were first day every first ball, first day every second ball. Just that sort of more aspect of one that more. But there was definitely no, and there's no accusations of the Coleraine players never tried or they gave up the ghost or anything like that. It just seemed that Ballymena were just that first across the pitch in Boxing Day, unfortunately.
I guess you do get occasions. You get games like that where, despite your best efforts as an individual or as a group of players, no matter what you do, sometimes you can almost tell from early on that a game is not going to go for you. Maybe break of the ball or just things, as you say, that the opposition are first to everything, and it just seems to then just to sort of spread almost throughout the group, and it becomes a game then it's just really, really difficult to try and turn around. And, it's weird because obviously Coleraine went up to Ballymena earlier in the year and won, but I think probably as well, and I was being a bit facetious when I was saying it was Ballymena's cup final, but given everything, it was Oran was only in the job, and there was a sort of bounce from that. Obviously, the first time he was managing against Coleraine shortly after he'd taken the Ballymena job, there was always that side to it, wasn't it? And that was always going to add an extra edge, and Ballymena players and fans could feed off that. And sometimes that's hard, despite what you do in preparation as a group like, say, Coleraine. You know what's coming and you try to make all the prep that you can. But sometimes it's just difficult. Something gains in momentum and it's very difficult to stop that.
It is, and somebody came off, I think, injured in the first half, because I remember Jamie coming on. I can't remember. There was just wee things that were happening, and just balls into the box just weren't landing our way, or passes were going. That was probably the main thing. Passing, I didn't think our passing was particularly good in Boxing Day. It was just wee things like that, and just so many errors that you just wouldn't expect, and obviously they got their 2 goals, and to be honest, we probably never really looked like overly scoring. And I know Jamie had a couple of chances at the end of the first half, but it was just one of them days, Damian, we've seen them before, that we're never going to score a goal, unfortunately. And yeah, it was just disappointing. Obviously, I think a lot was made about Oran and that coming in and stuff, but whether it had been Jim in charge or Oran in charge or whoever in charge, you want to win a Boxing Day, and that's the way the players would have wanted it. And yeah, look, Ballymena's tails were up. They got their 2 goals and were able to see the game out. Yeah,
and then you mentioned the Linfield game, and that was a really, really good performance from Coleraine. It's not often sort of Coleraine, if you like, batter Linfield or score 3 goals or whatever the case is. Very, very good on that occasion. But then the Larne game. And again, I suppose, exposed, if you like, certain frailties. And I think Ruaidhri was probably as angry post-game that evening in Larne as I've probably seen him since he started his tenure. I think he really, I wouldn't say got his eyes open that night, but I think what he did see, there was a real sort of a sort of gap between Coleraine and Larne on that night, and the squad, I suppose, that Larne had, the experience that they had, and then, as you said, bringing on the likes of an Andy Ryan there, who comes on and shows his value and he shows his worth. But I think Ruaidhri was really, really angry that night, and I remember him saying that he didn't do like token apologies, if you like, but he really did hold his hands up that night, and he apologised to the fans. Again, Coleraine had a great crowd at Inver Park that night on a really cold January evening. Do you think, I know that the club had probably plans in place to bring in the players that they did, we'll talk about that in a moment, but I guess what he had seen that night kind of hastened that, if you like. If there was any prevarication and he had any doubt about bringing them in, I'm sure he'd have been saying to Henry the next day, we need to get these players in ASAP. You probably know, like, the players maybe were already in the can, but that would have certainly speeded up the process, wouldn't it?
Yep, and I remember it's weird things. It's like Charles Dunn was suspended that night, so Mark Connolly might not have been just chucked in his first game in such a massive one. It's just wee things just seem to contrive against us. But I think I've said this to everybody. Larne are the best team we've played this year. I said that even the first day after we beat them in the first game of the season. But they've been able to do this over 6, 7, 8 transfer windows. And it's no fluke, and the spine of their team is so good with Ridley, Gallagher, Ryan, and then you sprinkle that with like some Miller, Cosgrove, Donnelly. They've so many good players in so many different positions, and that's probably where, like, we've only had one transfer window completed, and now we're at the second one. So by the time next January rolls around, or even this summer, is our squad looking the way that Ruaidhri would like? So these things just take time, and I know people hate that word. I hate it, but that's society and the way things are. And I think the difference between Coleraine and Larne that night, I wouldn't necessarily say quality, it's just more of a settled squad, and Larne finding different ways they obviously score. Like, the big thing I look at Larne, look how many games Larne have won by a single goal this season. It must be 5 or 6 games. And that's just that know-how of winning ways differently, game management and different things like that. And that's where, and we will chat about the signings in isolation, but that's probably where the likes of Mark Connolly, who's done it with Derry City, Dundee United, Kilmarnock, Mark Coyle, captain Shelbourne, to win the League of Ireland. James Akatunde's obviously experienced, as I mentioned before. Ben Wiley's probably has 100 Irish League games behind him. So those different types of players will definitely help. And the big thing as well, I think, which has really hindered Coleraine, and I've been open and honest and admitted this, I think the back four has changed quite a lot because of injuries and suspensions. And that happens, that's football. And even the goalkeeping situation, obviously Aidan's going back to Newcastle, and Ryan obviously had an injury at the start of the season as well. So we probably just haven't had that settled back four and goalkeeper for a prolonged period. So that's probably disrupted us as well. And I think those games over the festive period just showed you how important Dylan Boyle is. He's like the wee glue in the middle of the pitch. And so yeah, look, it's the Dylan Boyle red card hurt us obviously against Glentoran, but I think it hurt us as well. And look, he didn't mean to get sent off, and it's just one of them things. But it just had obviously that knock-on effect in terms of the squad. Yeah,
just go back briefly to Larne. What I sort of seen that night, it's just a very settled.
Yeah.
You know, yes, they are missing players as well, but they have such a strong squad, and it backs up what you're saying. That hasn't just happened overnight. They haven't just went. You know, I think 4 or 5 years or something. That took them almost to win their first league.
They have a settled structure and a settled formation, 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, whatever it is. But you know, if say Ridley doesn't play, you've Aaron Donnelly there to come in, or you've Big Bolger to come back. They just have a settled team with settled players for the formation that they play. And so yeah, that's just it. And yeah, you've Andy Ryan to come off the bench, and Benji McGee and Conor McKendry and guys like that. So you know, people say about Coleraine having a big squad, which I don't necessarily think we have massive numbers, but Larne have such a good squad as well, and that's testament to them as well. And look, they've 8 points clear of the game in hand as we're recording here, and that's no fluke. And they don't concede goals. That's was it 9 or 10 goals I think they've conceded in the league this season or something.
That's
crazy.
Incredible, like,
so,
isn't it?
Look, they're there, and you know it's no fluke that they're there. They've totally deserved to be in the driving seat, and yeah, they'll be looking to.
One hand in the trophy. As Ruaidhri said, and I seen certain people picked up on that as well, you know, and like Ruaidhri does his weekly press conference on a Thursday, and somebody had asked him the question, and he's entitled to answer. People think, like, I see people and they think that Ruaidhri Higgins or David Healy just speaks to the press. They don't understand that they're being asked specific questions by journalists. They don't just go to the papers with these stories. So that said, he was asked the question, and he did say, and at that stage, Larne were further in front, and he's right. You know, with the game in hand, that. But I liked it insofar as Thomas Kane after Larne then drew with Linfield at Windsor in a 0-0 draw, and Thomas Kane in his post-match interview in the BBC said to Gary Havern, Ruaidhri Higgins has said you have one hand on the trophy, and then Gary Havern had to respond and said, well, sure, didn't he say something about David Healy? But from a Coleraine perspective and a selfish point of view from our club, if you can stick a little bit of something in there to make them boys suddenly, you know, they think subconsciously, yeah, we have a hand on the trophy, and that maybe affects performance. it's all about mind games, Johnny, at this stage, isn't it? You know, you're a Manchester United supporter, and Fergie and stuff was a master at it.
Mind games, but to be honest, I just think it's the truth. I think they do have one hand in the trophy.
I do as well.
Like,
but that's neither here nor there.
8 points clear with a game in hand.
Yeah.
They were 10 clear at that stage.
But yeah, I agree with you. Right. But say, for example, say Larne then, maybe get a little bit of a mini run where they don't pick up the points, and say Coleraine have a couple of games there where they pick up the points, right? So all of a sudden things narrow. And then don't forget, when the split comes, the top 6 play each other. I understand that yes, they have one hand, but what I'm saying as well, we've all been in football long enough to know that like teams have had leads in leagues before. That's not easy to say, and have been caught. So it's not impossible.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Come on, Johnny, have a bit of belief.
But I don't think. I genuinely don't think Ruaidhri's answered that to play mind games.
I agree.
And I think it's just been.
But what I'm saying is, if the side
subconsciously
of that,
100%. But subconsciously, if Larne drop a few points in the next few weeks, they'll seep in anyway. That's subconscious. So I don't think Ruaidhri has said that comment. They hopefully Larne have a big.
No.
Yeah. Obviously, he would love Larne. I'm sure they drop a few points in closely, of course. But I don't think he's. If they had been 5 points clear, or 3 points clear, they've won the league 2 years out of the last 3, and you know they're in the driving seat or stuff. I could probably, you're playing a bit of mind games there, Ruaidhri. But no, I don't think. But as I said before, Larne just have such a settled squad. They've players and roles that know what they're doing, and they just have that know-how. And when you don't concede goals. Defence is it not? Goals win games, but defences win titles, and that's the way I would probably look at Larne.
That's a good point, because like you'd mentioned it about the change in the shape of the Coleraine defence, because Coleraine started the season well, not conceding goals, but then the whole knock-on effect of changing defenders and personnel has led to Coleraine have conceded goals towards the second part of the first half of the season. Going forward, it's not a problem.
No.
Coleraine are by far and away the biggest scorers in that league.
I think it's 77 goals they've scored in all competitions this season.
I think it's
50,
an average of more than 2 per league game.
It's well over 50 in the league. I think it might be 57 or something in the league. I should have done my homework, but that is something crazy they got. So going forward, there's no issues. You've Coops, you've Chevy, Zane, you've Lewis, you've Patch, and then the defenders are chipping in with goals. So look, you've goals all over the team. You're probably just hopefully now going to try and keep clean sheets, because you can't always rely on having to score 2 or 3 goals.
51 goals in 25 league games.
Yeah, more than 2 a game.
More than 2 a game.
Great entertainers.
Well, do you know what? When all said and done, people want to go to watch football to be entertained. And if you're scoring an average for more than 2 goals per game, I suggest that going and watch Coleraine is it's a pretty entertaining. Like, look at the last couple of games. How many they scored?
I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't there on Saturday. I was away in London. But looking at recent results, or whatever, it's hard not to think we're like nearly a second half team. Some of the goals we've scored in the second half has been crazy, and Linfield was the same, and obviously Crusaders there
in the league, and Crusaders in the cup.
We beat Carrick one time. I think we were 1 down at half time, beating 3-1 or something. So maybe that's fitness levels. That's just maybe concentration levels between part time and full time. But listen, it doesn't matter when you score your goals, as long as you win games of football. So whether all in the first half and none in the second half, or split evenly, or more in the second, as long as you're getting the 3 points.
And you say like Joel Cooper hat-trick at the weekend, Chevy with his goal. I mean, they're among the 2 of the top 3 or 4 goal scorers in that league. It's testament to them, isn't it? And they're like almost having their own little individual private battle to see who finishes top scorer for Coleraine, never mind the Irish League. Yeah,
the Coop's first 2 goals in particular are brilliant. The second one, I think, is a great team goal. Obviously Patch and Zane, and then back into
Senan was involved.
And Senan's ball as well. So his first couple of goals were very good.
Third was brilliant.
He's claiming the third. I'm not going to take it off him.
Nobody's going to take it off him.
And then Chevy. But the big thing that I love is when Chevy scores. Look at Joel Cooper's reaction. He's probably more delighted for Chevy than, because the more goals, as I've said, I think I said in this last month, the more goals you have in your team, the better. You can't have too many goals in your team. So, and it's good now that we're not just overly reliant on Chevy.
Yeah.
We've obviously now Cooper winning with goals. We've had Patch, I think.
Patch on 5, I think.
Maybe even a few more than that. And
5 in the league, I think, 7 overall.
So look, goals going to help.
Yeah. Listen, we've sort of mentioned them, the signings that we brought in January. Mark Connolly, you mentioned, Mark Coyle. Trying to think who else.
James Akatunde.
James Akatunde. I mean, you were probably arguably the hardest working man in football there for about a week. There wasn't about an hour went past. I didn't see another press release coming out.
Yeah, it was Ben Wiley as well, and Patch stayed permanent. So
Senan came back.
Senan came back, and there were a few guys went out. So yeah, look, it was.
You just live in the Showgrounds.
The first over New Year. I didn't know when 2025 ended and 2026 started, Damian. But no, listen, it showed you how nailed on Colerane's recruitment was. They had all that done within the first 2 or 3 days of the transfer window. Obviously, they had their targets, and that was obviously to keep Patch permanently and bring in the other few lads. Probably helped that James and Mark Connolly were out of contract, I suppose. Yeah, look, I think they pinpointed their targets early, as I said, and were able to bring the boys in. And yeah, look, I think Mark Connolly at the back, look, plenty of experience. Played under Ruaidhri before. He's a winner, and he'll be able to help us win games in different ways. Goal threat as well. 2 goals in 3 games. I actually sent him a message on Saturday saying I didn't know we signed you as a striker. Then obviously Mark Coyle. I couldn't believe it when the text came through saying we've signed Mark Coyle. I thought it was April Fools, never mind 1st of January. And yeah, he captained obviously Shelburne, the League of Ireland title, and played in the league field. He played against Crystal Palace not too long ago in the Conference League. He's only 28. And yeah, I remember watching him against Linfield in the playoff and just sort of strolled it. And again, winner, he'll set standards, and he's a good footballer as well.
And he's done it all, man. He's
Yeah.
not a doubler.
He's not from.
He would know the area.
Ben Wiley, creative player. I think he's only 22, 23 from Ballymena, so he's the biggest Ballymena accent I've ever heard. Not too far away, so again, I think he had assists there on his home debut and against Crusaders in the Cup. And the competition for places as well, good footballer, and as I think I said at the start, he's probably got 100 Irish League games behind him. And then James Akatunde can obviously play in front of the front 3, and Rory said his biggest mistake was manager at Derry City was letting him go. So yeah, look, I think, to be honest, I don't think any more will be coming in, is my own opinion on it. I could be laughing at this next month and could be the busiest man.
Your phone could be beeping now.
So I genuinely don't. Obviously, Sennon's came back into the fold, and we've kept Patch full time, and the squad probably just needed, obviously, trimmed a wee bit. Obviously, Adams moved on, and Decky's moved on, and Cade's went to Mayola on loan, but I think he's maybe picked up an injury. And obviously, Corey and Jack have moved on permanently as well. So maybe will they trim the squad? Maybe with a couple more. Who knows? But I don't expect it to be busy.
Just a wee word on Senan.
Yeah.
Spent the first half of the season on loan at Harlan and Wolf Welders. Had a great impact up there, and then Rory brought him back. One of the first things he almost did in the transfer window was bring him back. And if there was any doubts as to why he was bringing him back, was he bringing him back just to have him in the background or anything? I think that notion has been dispelled. He's featured in the last couple of games, and he's made an impact as well. And it's testament to Senan too, because he would have wanted, obviously, to have stayed in the summer, but when he was loaned out to Harlan Wolf Welders, I guess like any young player, you almost have a choice. Do you throw the big lip out, or do you put the head down and try then to sort of make an impact at your club, which is exactly what he did. I think he had 12 goals in 22 games or something ridiculous. Played really well. Almost gave Rory no option but to bring him back because he's done so well. And I think already fans have seen in the glimpses of what we've seen from Senan in the couple of cameo appearances that he's played, just what kind of a player he is. And when he got playing for Coleraine before, he was been filling in at left back, and he was been playing here. But he's been playing in a more offensive position since he's come back. And I'll tell you what, you can see he's got talent.
it nearly seemed that every other week he was scoring for the Welders, and Senan is the shining light or the example now that every young player needs to follow when they go out on loan. Senan needed games. They all needed games at night. At that level where you're going to a championship club who want to get promotion and results matter. It's the same obviously at Alfie at Limavady and Cade at Myola. You know, those teams have their own agendas, and going out there and playing, it's the best thing for them. There's no much point playing 20s at their age. They need to go out and play regularly, and Senna's went obviously the Welders with such a great attitude, a willingness to go and learn, and yeah, he's contributed really well, and yeah, he's came back obviously into the fold, but he's not there just to make up the numbers or be the 20th man in the squad. He's earned his spot in the squad, and I think he's been brought on in every single game and made an impact, as you say. So I don't want to put any pressure on. I don't think he scored for Coleraine yet. So the pressure's on him to try and get a goal. But Senna's got a great attitude. Again, I think a lot of it obviously comes down to his parents as well. Obviously, we know his father, and he'll be pushing them on as well. And Senna's a good kid. So yeah, it's great to see local boy as well, which always helps. It means a bit more to him. And yeah, I think when he started with us, obviously he'd been filling in a full back position, but I remember watching him in the Super Cup and maybe for the 20s a few times. He was always more of an advanced player, and yeah, no, it's definitely great to see him back and flourishing. And yeah, a bit of a sore one for the Welders because they've lost him and lost Brian Healy, but that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
It is a shame for the Welders, isn't it? Like you've got two of the hottest prospects and then you lose them in the one transfer window. You say you don't think there'll be any more movement, so do you think almost the squad we have now is what Ruaidhri's going to settle and be happy with for the second, what remains of the season, and then in the summer reshaping it again? I mean, as you said earlier, like learn over the course of however many transfer windows, and it seems to be exactly what the coaching management setup are doing at Coleraine at the moment. They're going through the squad and then they're reshaping it. There's players being trimmed out, left out or moved on. Ruaidhri's bringing in players, it's like moulding the squad that he wants. And I guess every manager, and it's like not every manager gets the time to do it. I mean, you look across at England there, I mean, Thomas Franks and Spurs, I mean, he only joined in the summer. And as we record this, they're talking he's going to get the boot. Yes, results haven't been good, but if you bring in a manager in and you're investing, you're hoping, you say you're our man, he hasn't had a chance to sort of do much with the squad. You don't get time, and it's important that clubs give their managers time, their head coaches time. And in Ruaidhri's case, you like to think he'll get the time to shape the squad, and then it's up to them to try to win the trophies that the investment probably craves. Yep.
The way I look at it is that we finished 6th last year and we're currently sitting 2nd, which guarantees you Europe. I'm not saying we're going to finish 2nd. We could finish 5th, could finish 1st, who knows. But if I was offered 2nd at the start of the season and that was it, I would have bitten your hand off for it. It's a great improvement. And it's European football as well. Obviously we want a wee cup run in there as well, and we have a semi-final coming up here now next week. So yeah, look, it does take time. Like Ruaidhri's only had one full window. This one obviously is going to be a second, and I'd imagine probably by the time the summer one ends, that's the way he would like the squad to look. I think if I was being totally greedy, I think maybe another out-and-out striker. Maybe I know James and Jamie can play through the middle, but I always think of them cutting in. From what I've known, maybe if Chevy gets hurt, you know, do you have a like-for-like replacement in terms of, like, Chevy must go home black and blue every week. So maybe that, if someone was to be available, but there's not much point saying somebody for the sake of it. It needs to be somebody that's going to push Chevy, or start ahead of Chevy, or play alongside him. So maybe that might be one, maybe more for the summer, you would imagine. And then we've had Lewis McGregor out for the season. Obviously Graham Kelly hasn't kicked a ball, unfortunately, and Cody's going to maybe be out for the season. So we've had a lot of boys. Conor Murray,
and Glax was out.
Glax was out, so we've a lot of boys.
Was out at the weekend as well.
London, yeah. So we've a lot of players.
Jamie was out. There was a whole hosting them sitting near the press box, and I was like, some talent sitting
Yeah,
there.
so if they could come back and then the squad and challenge as well. So to be honest, I would be very surprised if another one was brought in. That's my own opinion. But maybe in the summer, maybe another number 9, maybe they
summertime. I think you'll see maybe a little bit more movement, both in and out. Overall, in the January transfer window, there's been a bit of movement. I see Linfield brought in
Adam Frisell.
Yep, former Derry City guy, and then Ballymena. They've been quite active in the transfer. I think Shane McElhaney and reports of a pre-contract with Linfield striker Chris McKee. I mean, they've been busy, and again, referencing Rory's weekly press conferences, and somebody had asked him about, this label about Coleraine, big spend in Coleraine and stuff, and he admitted it was all starting to get a little bit boring now. It was a novelty at the start because it was a new young owner in Henry, and it was a whole new freshness of it. But he says it's now getting quite boring labelling Coleraine as big spending. And when you look overall at the Irish League and the spending that's been done by other clubs, Coleraine are not working in a silo. They're not the only club that are spending money. I like Ballymena, Shane McElhaney leaving full-time setup at Glentoran to go to Ballymena, Chris McKee leaving a full-time setup to go to Ballymena. There's money obviously being spent there. So what I'm saying is it's not just Coleraine that are spending money, is it? They get labelled with it because it's a novelty. I don't know what your thoughts are.
To be honest, the thoughts on being Coleraine labelled big spender, I don't really sort of care.
I think your money.
Well, it's football like that in general. You look, everyone thinks about Man City. I think I've spent 500 million since last January. Teams do spend money. Rangers and Celtic have notoriously spent money. Obviously in Scotland.
It's the same in every league in the world.
It is. It's
the same everywhere in football.
You only get what you pay for as well, and that's Ballymena. That's the team obviously you've mentioned. So Chris McKee is a good striker.
He's a good striker.
Irish League level, works his absolute nuts off. Hopefully that makes the edit. But he does, and he's a goal threat. So by all accounts, they signed David Walsh as well, who was fantastic for Linfield last year. And between
a couple of good signings there, and
Shane
McElhaney's
experienced.
Widely experienced.
He's a good defender. So, Ballymena, yes, obviously they're going to spend a pound or two to bring him in, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But
that's the same the world over in
100%.
sport, isn't it?
Yep.
All the big clubs in any sport have to spend money to get the players.
It's life in general. You go and buy a bar of chocolate now, it's like 150, 160. Everyone's dear, everyone's more expensive. Wages have gone up, fees have gone up. Football's just mad. You think
it's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. You look around the league. Glentoran made a couple of shrewd signings. I think Ben Gallagher's a good signing.
Yeah.
Obviously, they brought in Jack Malone from
decent signing too. He's a decent, reliable.
Been around the league. Linfield have signed a couple. They've had a couple leave. So, I was always expecting it to be a wee bit busy. Obviously, Bangor have brought in Stevie Fallon from Aussie.
That's right.
He scored a good header on Saturday. So, great for Stevie. So, I think the league was always going to be. January was always going to be a big month. Carrick obviously signed a couple, and obviously Glenavon are trying to bring in players, and obviously the Championship, you'll have teams trying to get promoted. So then you have the Irish Cup and everyone else. So it was always
jostling.
It was always going to be busy.
It was always going to be busy. You're right, actually, because it's like the only opportunity you have to try to influence your squad for the latter half of the season. And if you don't act now, then you may live to regret it. And if you do bring in somebody now that can maybe get you into Europe or win you an Irish Cup or a League Cup or whatever the case is, then it's probably money well spent. Just looking ahead this weekend, Johnny, another Friday night game. Home to Glenavon. You can't be complacent about these things, but on paper, you're second against bottom. It should be a home win, shouldn't it? If the attitude's right.
It should be, and Coleraine will go in as heavy favourites. There's not much point me playing it down. I always fearful playing teams like that who are fighting for points. They really seem more dogged. I think Glentoran only squeezed by them 2-1. They have picked up very notable results. I think they beat Linfield earlier in the season. They beat Glentoran earlier in the season. So, obviously Mick O'Connor knows all our guys well. And I remember the first game of the season, I only think Cooper scored in literally the last kick of the first half. And then the second half turned in a bit of a farce because their keeper got sent off, and then they had to put an outfield player in nets, and I think it ended up 5-1 or something. But it was never It was never really a
I know what you
5-1
mean,
game.
yeah.
They've brought in new players as well who'll want to obviously impress, and they're fighting for everything. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it'll be a tough game, but obviously if Coleraine are on it, and the big. I always think the big key things in games like that is trying to get an early goal and settle everything down and things like that. So yeah, look, on paper and everyone else, and if you look at the form guide and all, it should be a Coleraine win, but football just doesn't.
Well, the early goal is important because then Glenavon almost have to come out because they may come here, try to set up, to try to sort of nullify Corain's well-known attacking threats. But if Coleraine can score early, then Glenavon, they have to get something from the game, so they'll have to come out, which then leaves a little bit of space. But all things being equal, Coleraine, it's a game that if Coleraine want to push on in the league and to be thereabouts, those are games that you have to win. And so far this season, by and large, they've done that, haven't they?
Yeah, look, it's a home game. You want to win. You want to win all your games, obviously, but try and keep on top of your home forms is important. And it's a Friday night game, so 3 points, and if possible, and then hopefully some of your teams in around you on Saturday don't win. That's the way you got to look at it between now and the end of the season. We're sitting obviously second, but I think Glentoran only 2 points behind us, maybe.
They have a couple of games in hand.
2 games in hand. So, yeah, look, we just need to keep on winning and see where it takes us. And obviously, look, if we can get into the Bet McLean Cup final, and the momentum from that would be huge as well, and stuff like that. So, and then you've the Irish Cup and stuff like that. So there's so much to play for, and the European spots and everything else. So, yeah, but the next time we speak, it's probably going to be the middle of next month. You'll have taken Tina out for Valentine's Day probably and stuff like that. So
we're going to have a match that day.
So listen, but the next time we speak, and we say it all the time, a lot will have changed, I'm sure. There'll be things that have happened and things like that. So yeah, look, hopefully we can just keep on a winning run.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bet McLean Cup, their semi-final next Wednesday, towards whatever the date is, I can't remember off the top of my head. Obviously a big game for both clubs. It's the first cup competition of the season. You've got a chance of going and winning the first trophy, which is, like, from a momentum point of view and a belief point of view for a group of players, like a new group almost at Coleraine. I don't think you can underestimate the value of maybe going on and getting into the first final, and if you're lucky, going and winning that, and what that would do the last couple of months of the season if you could carry that on. Glentoran away at the Oval, I think you mentioned it, we lost earlier there in the league. Dylan was sent off at the last minute goal, shades of the Paul Miller one. They've changed a few players. We've certainly probably strengthened since that game. Away from home, how do you see it going? I mean, yes, Glentoran are a good side. They've got Pat Hubin and they've got other decent players as well. They're a good side. They're third in the league. But it's a game there that it's to be won, and you've got a cup final at the end of it, Johnny. It's mouth-watering. Yeah,
that one will definitely come down to fine margins, I think. I think we've played them twice this year and they've beat us twice, both 2-1. But I don't think there's been much between the two teams. I don't think there is anyway. They've got a good spine of a team, obviously, with Pat Hoban up front, as you said. Your big boy Kamara has been good at the back. And then obviously they've got talented midfielders, Calamy, Palmer and guys like that. So yeah, there'll be nothing between them two teams. That could come down to a lucky run of the ball, a set piece. That could go down to penalties. You know, who knows? So yeah, that'll be one to look forward to. But yeah, fingers crossed. And obviously as well, like, you know, if you get into the final, if you win it, you're into the final of the European playoffs, so you're guaranteed one hit at Europe.
If you win the trophy.
If you win the trophy, so
yeah, you get into the final.
Final, so there's a lot to play for.
Big incentive.
And then you look at the other semi-final, it's Linfield and Ballymena, I think. So yeah, whoever it's going to be in the final is going to be a big crowd. I'm sure Niffle and Bet McLean are licking their lips because it's going to be a good showpiece and everything else. So.
It's either, well, it could be potentially a big two, Linfield-Glentoran final, or it could be a A26 Derby, Coleraine and Ballymena final, which would be a novelty.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of the first ones ever. I don't think my nerves would be too good, Damian.
No, mine neither.
But mine wouldn't be good regardless if it was Linfield or Ballymena. So just getting there would be great. It would give everyone a huge lift, and winning's a habit. And you know, if we are very fortunate to get to the final, players will be trying to start the final. If we're not fortunate. Well, we're still in a position where you've got a league, finish high in the league as you can, and you've the Irish Cup as well. So.
Yeah, it's a big game, and we don't want to try and put too much pressure on them. But if you were lucky enough to go and beat Glentoran, you say you get into the final, League Cup final. Traditionally, we know when Coleraine get into finals, the crowds that they take, the colour and the buzz, and that would be a good side part of getting into the final, because there are so many new players at Coleraine that have never experienced being in a sort of a big game environment or a cup final with the likes of Coleraine, 5,000-6,000 fans behind them, and it would give them a glimpse of, I guess, the potential of the club that they've joined. And all of a sudden they just be like thinking, yeah, I want a bit more of this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Obviously, like, we're biased, so we think Coleraine are massive and things like that. But
you always say that.
But when you look at the crowd, we took to Fleetwood that weekend.
To where, sorry?
Fleetwood, for example.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. I think there's 200 or 300. Crazy. And then obviously Boxing Day and everyone else, and all the Linfield games and all have been sellouts, and the crowd we took to Larne that night. So the potential of Coleraine is huge. We have said it so many times, and if we can get to a final and get a bit of silverware in, and it just lifts everything. It'd be fantastic. I have a bit of goosebumps here thinking about it, but it would be amazing if we can first of all get to that final.
You just need to take care of business next
100%,
Wednesday.
And look, things just don't go our way. We still have so much to play for. It is such a busy second half of the season that we've got so much to play for on 3 different fronts, and it's not as if we're, say, 6th in the league and we can't get any higher, or we're just finishing off the playoff or anything like that. We can finish. We could still finish first. We could still finish second and get into Europe automatically, and things like that. And then you've the Irish Cup, which is a tough one away to Carrick, and things like that. But listen, the draw will definitely open up after that, because I think most of the bigger teams avoided each other, so it could then come into chaos in that competition. Then you've Europe and signings and everything else. So there's definitely plenty to play for.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting.
It is exciting, because we're in such, like,
we're in everything at this moment.
Yeah, like I know people are probably disappointed that Larne are 8 points ahead and everyone else, and they'll be hard to catch. But I didn't expect Coleraine to win the league.
Would you take second now?
I would,
somebody offered you second now?
As I said earlier, I'd have took second at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I think it's great progression. Third's progression, but you just want second, so you're definitely in Europe. And
you'd like to get into Europe
100% automatically and stuff like that. I see total progression this year. I think we're good to watch. At times, yes, you can always be critical, and the goal, probably conceding just too many goals at certain stages. But
I think that'll hopefully change as Mark Conley gets settled and probably gets a little bit match fitter. He maybe hasn't played much.
Yeah, like Rome definitely wasn't built in a day, and I think obviously we've only had one real transfer window, and now this is the second one, and probably just added different things. I think Ruaidhri's maybe identified things that he's needed, but to me that's experience, and that's a little bit of know-how in certain situations. And instead of maybe drawing 1 each, you see out that game for 1-0 or 1 each, you score that goal to win 2-1. Those just different fine margins, and that's why Larne are top of the league. I've said this to everybody since the last 2 or 3 months. The amount of games they've won 1-0 or 2-1 is crazy. Look at it.
But that just comes from experience,
100%.
Game management, know-how, having been there and done it before,
and they've good players as well and stuff like that. But they've just been able to see games out, and they've just had a mostly settled probably spine of their team. But then obviously if somebody comes out, they've got a quality player to come back in, and we're getting to that stage where if Glax can't play, you've Ben Whiteley who's come in. Obviously if Dunn or Conley can't play, you've Cody obviously to come back next season, or vice versa, whoever starts the game. So you left back, you could have Ives or you could have Jarvie, stuff like that. So all them different competitions for places can only be a good thing.
Sounds good, Johnny. Listen, as you say, Rome wasn't built today. It just takes time. So, listen, we've had a good chatter there. We haven't met up since before Christmas, so thank you very much for your time. The next couple of weeks, as you say, busy on all fronts. Bet McLean Cup, League, Irish Cup. So hopefully when we reconvene in about a week's or a month's time, we'll have plenty of positive things to say. So, listen, from Johnny and myself and everybody at the NRC where we record the podcast, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for all your feedback. It's always very much appreciated when Johnny and I are out and about at games. People are always talking to us about the podcast, so we take on board everything that everybody says and appreciates all your positive feedback. So, until the next time we meet, we wish Coleraine good luck on Friday and Wednesday and for the next month or so. So until then, thank you as ever, and come on the Bannsiders.